In the 18th century, there was this nurse named Florence Nightingale. During the time, there was a big war. It was called the Crimean War. And one thing that Florence Nightingale realized was that there was a lot of soldiers who were dying from preventable diseases. Preventable. Now, the issue was that the military didn't know about all these diseases that were preventable. But Florence Nightingale needed to convince them. So what did she do? She collected data. This was revolutionary at the time. They didn't just collect data to prove their point, but now we do. And now it's very common, bringing us to today, where the effect of what Florence Nightingale did for the healthcare industry, we realize it was revolutionary, and we realize the power of data-driven methods.
Spot spends hours and hours each week walking factory floors, checking gauges and machinery, exposes itself to high radiation in nuclear facilities, goes offshore, and much more.
Today, the power of data, it's helped us to create robots to replace the factory workers that would have had to work in the nuclear factories, but now they are safe. It's increased the productivity we've expected from individual workers, and it's helped companies create death scroll machines that are mathematically optimal. Data is now more advanced than ever before. Back in Florence Nightingale, she processed data in the megabyte level. She was physically writing it in books. She was storing it in written records. She was processing it by herself, and she was monitoring it by herself. Maybe she'll do a periodic review of it, and she created what was known as a cost-comb chart to convince the military to reform their ways. You may look at the Nightingale pipeline and recognize how intuitive it is. And in many initiatives, this Nightingale stack is more than enough. You don't really need to understand the modern stack. But if you're a data engineer in this modern age, you know just how much more advanced we are in this age and how we've progressed so far in each of the 5 V's of data. Just by looking at the first V of volume, we're now able to work at the PB level as opposed to the GB level or the megabyte level. And as a result, not only are we more advanced, at the same time, it's gotten incredibly confusing for anybody trying to delve into this world. So it's my mission with this video series that I'm making right now to help address some key points in this entire data lifecycle. It won't be comprehensive because it'll end up being hours and hours long. But I'll do my best with my current knowledge to give you the key frameworks and thought processes to mastering each stage of the data lifecycle. And my goal is not to give you the most advanced methods, but to equip you with a framework to work with this data effectively and be aware of how the modern stack treats data. With knowledge of the data lifecycle, you'll be able to understand corporate talk in data meetings better and have a better intuition on how all the companies around the world around you from simple to advanced handles data. Even after taking a data science major, I found this framework, it was never explicitly taught at the depth I was satisfied at, even though it's the most practical framework. It's something I've gathered over experience working with many datasets and helping dozens of companies from airlines, media, government, public sector, and financial services manage their real data pipelines. Now, this is just an introductory video for the video series I'm making that will cover each stage of the data lifecycle. To begin with, let's start with this concept of a data action. These are simply just the things you can do with data. You can collect data, you can ingest data, you can store them, and so on. Here are 20 data actions, and for this series, I plan to talk about 8.